Okay, so are you ready to dive into some serious celebrity news? Because today we are talking about none other than Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be good.
Remember when they first got together, like right after Kim and Kanye split?
It was pretty wild, right? Like nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, exactly. And now, fast forward to SNL's 50th anniversary, they're both there, and the rumor mill is going crazy about them reconnecting.
It's like, are they back on or are they just messing with us?
Yeah, that's exactly what we were trying to figure out today.
Yeah, so we found this YouTube commentary that breaks down the whole situation.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it's juicy.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yeah.
So what's the big takeaway here? Like, what are we really diving into?
Well, I think the really fascinating thing about this whole story is that it goes beyond just a possible reunion. It's like a window into our obsession with celebrity relationships.
Well, that's a good point, like how we analyze every little interaction and try to read between the lines.
Exactly. Like, what are these public displays really telling us? Are they genuine or is it all just for show?
So basically the big question is, are we witnessing a real rekindling of their romance, some kind of PR stunt, or something else entirely?
Right. And the commentary really gets into all those complexities.
Okay, so let's start with Pete's recent comments about being considered ugly and how that affects his love life.
Oh, yeah, that whole thing.
He even name-dropped actors like Paul Mescal and Timothy Chalamet, the heartthrobs.
Right. The ones who are considered like conventionally attractive.
Yeah, so is he being serious about his insecurities, or is this some kind of strategy?
Well, the commentary kind of paints him as playing the pity party card, you know.
Oh, interesting.
But I think there's more to it than that. Like, it could be a pretty effective way to get people on his side.
How so?
Well, first, it makes him seem relatable. Anyone who's ever felt judged for their looks can sympathize with that.
I guess that makes sense.
And second, it kind of deflects any criticism of his relationships.
Oh, like people will think they're just being superficial and judging him based on his appearance? That's actually a really good point. It kind of ties into the whole conversation about body image and double standards, especially in Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what's funny? He's saying he wants to be known for his work, not his relationships.
Right.
But then he goes and makes these statements that just feed the gossip machine even more.
Yeah, it's like he's stuck in this cycle. He wants recognition for his talent, but keeps making headlines for his personal life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another point that the commentary brings up, the whole idea of Pete as a gold digger.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular theory.
Right. Like the idea is that he dates rich and famous women to boost his own career.
And when you look at his dating history, it does seem to fit a pattern.
It really does. Like Larry David's daughter, Kaya Gerber, and, of course, Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, but then the commentary also talks about Pete's whole wounded puppy act.
Oh, right, where he comes across as this sensitive, vulnerable guy.
Yeah, remember that story about him supposedly fleeing the SNL party when Kim arrived?
Oh, yeah, like he couldn't handle seeing her.
Oh. Exactly. It almost seemed like he was avoiding a confrontation.
It's interesting, right?
Yes.
Because it paints this completely different picture.
So is he a calculated gold digger or a heartbreaking puppy?
Or maybe a little bit of both. What do you think?
Honestly, I'm not sure. It's so easy to get caught up in these labels and narratives, especially when it comes to celebrity relationships.
And that's what I like about this commentary.
Yeah.
It makes you question everything.
Yeah, it challenges us to look beyond the surface and think about the complexities of these individuals and their motivations.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's always more to this story than what we see in the headlines.
Okay, but this whole idea of Pete being insecure about his looks kind of clashes with the image of him as a confident gold digger.
That's true.
Which brings us to another interesting point. Like, what if Pete actually benefits from dating these super successful women?
Oh, you mean like he's intentionally playing into this whole perception thing?
Yeah. Could he be using it for career advancement? That's a really interesting thought. Like, maybe he's aware of all these narratives surrounding him, and he's figured out how to use them to his advantage.
Makes sense. I mean, there's that saying, right? No such thing as bad publicity.
Especially in Hollywood. But hey, speaking of successful women...
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Kim. What's her perspective in all of this?
Well, the commentary suggests that she might be drawn to Pete's vulnerability.
Really?
Yeah, especially after her whole very public and messy situation with Kanye.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
Totally. Kim has always been open about wanting more control, in her life and her relationships.
Yeah, and after everything with Kanye, it's understandable why she might want something that feels simpler, less chaotic.
Exactly. Like, she's got businesses, she's co-parenting, she's building her own empire.
Yeah, so maybe she was looking for a sense of normalcy with Pete?
Exactly. And, the commentary also brings up this interesting concept from psychology called attachment theory.
Attachment theory. Yeah, basically it suggests that our early childhood experiences can actually influence our relationship patterns later in life.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's possible that after a relationship that might have felt unstable, Kim might subconsciously be drawn to partners who offer a sense of security and familiarity.
So even though they seem like total opposites on the surface, they might actually be drawn to each other for similar reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about those underlying motivations. But hold on, the commentary also analyzes Kim's Skims ad.
Oh, yeah, the one where she's like a fairy godmother.
Right, and they
Yeah.
question whether her acting career is actually taking off, or if Pete was right to feel like his connections were valuable to her.
That's a good point. It brings up the whole power dynamic between them.
Right. Was Pete genuinely supportive of her ambitions? Or did he feel used, like his connections were the main thing Kim was interested in?
And don't forget, Kim was already incredibly successful before Pete even came into the picture.
That's true. So was she really using him, or was she just going after what she wanted like anyone with ambition would?
It's a tough question. And I think that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. It challenges our assumptions about power and agency in relationships.
Absolutely.
Mm.
We often assume that the man has more power,
Right.
but in this case it seems way more complicated.
It's like flipping the script on traditional gender roles.
Totally. Like we usually see the man as the one with the connections and the power.
But with Kim and Pete, it's Kim who seems to be calling the shots.
It definitely defies expectations,
Eh.
and it makes you think about how we view success, ambition, and the roles we play in relationships.
Okay, but the commentator throws in this curveball.
Oh, what's that?
They suggest that Kim might have actually felt more in control with Pete, while Kanye, despite everything, was more supportive of her ambitions.
Oh, that's a mind bender.
Right.
It really shows how complex relationships can be. Power and support don't always go together.
Yeah, you can be with someone who makes you feel powerful, but they might not actually have your best interests at heart.
And the opposite is true too. Someone who truly cares about you and wants you to succeed might not make you feel in control.
Man, that's a tough one. It makes you really think about what truly matters in a relationship.
It does. Is it control, support,
Yeah.
some combination of both? And how do those dynamics change over time?
It's a lifelong journey figuring that out.
It really is. But that's what I love about this deep dive. We're exploring these universal questions about relationships, ambition, the stories we tell ourselves.
And we're doing it through this super public, super fascinating couple.
Exactly. But let's be real. We all secretly want some drama.
Oh, totally. Remember those rumors about Pete trying to spin the block?
Spin the block.
It's slang for going back to an ex.
Oh, right. So is there any chance Kim will actually fall for it?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is. We have to look at it from both sides.
Okay.
On the one hand, Kim might be drawn to the stability and familiarity that Pete represents.
Especially after the craziness with Kanye.
Right. Maybe there's some comfort in going back to what, even if it didn't work out before.
Ah, yeah, I can see that.
But on the other hand, they've both moved on in their lives. Kim's focused on her empire and her family. Pete's got his own thing going on.
And let's not forget their last relationship was super public. It wouldn't be easy to just slip back into something without the whole world watching.
True. True. This whole situation is like a real-life soap opera.
It is. It's hard not to get caught up in the gossip and speculation.
But it's important to remember that these are real people with real lives.
Yeah, their relationships are way more nuanced than what we see in the headlines.
Exactly.
So what do you think? Is this just a temporary thing? Or could there be a real rekindling of their romance?
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But this whole thing really shows how obsessed we are with celebrity relationships.
It's true. It's like we can't get enough of them.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get sucked into all the drama and speculation.
And I think it's because celebrity relationships kind of become these like cultural mirrors,
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Like they reflect our own hopes and fears and desires about relationships. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we project our own ideas about love and success and happiness onto these famous people.
And their stories become a way for us to deal with our own stuff.
Exactly. So whether Kim and Pete get back together or not,
Yeah.
their story has already given us a lot to think about.
It really has. We've talked about celebrity culture, relationship dynamics, power imbalances, even psychology stuff like attachment theory.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has. And I bet we've all learned something about ourselves along the way.
I hope so.
Um,
At the very least, it reminds us to look beyond the headlines,
Yeah.
to remember that relationships are complicated and to be aware of how the stories we consume can affect us.
That's a great point. So what do you think? Is Pete playing some kind of mastermind game here, or is this just a classic case of Hollywood heartbreak?
Hmm. It's hard to say, but whatever happens, it's a good reminder to think critically about the stories we see in the media.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but be sure to let us know your thoughts. Find us on social media and use the hashtag DeepDiveCompete.
And remember, whether you're Team Pete or just here for the entertainment, it's always worth taking a step back and asking yourself, what does this story tell us about ourselves and our culture?